Hello digital world, welcome back to another episode of Spliced In Later. Apologies for the delay. If you tune in to listen to me regularly, you will know that I am a day behind on my usual release, and that is just because time got away from me, and I had no time yesterday to record today's episode, but I thought, that's okay. I'm sure if I wait a day, I don't think anybody's heads are going to explode or anything terrible is going to happen. But if you spent all of yesterday going, where's the episode? When is the episode coming out? Why aren't you giving it to me now? And so forth. So please, the episode, I apologize. Here it is. I hope it's worth the wait. It probably isn't, but moving on. I have also been racking my brains the last couple of days trying to think what I wanted to do for today's episode. As with most of my shows, I tend to have one idea I want to do, and then I'm not confident in it, so I pick something else randomly, and then every now and then I'll strike some sort of gold, but there's a lot of panic before actually recording today's episode. So much so is that this was going to be something completely different 2 days ago. But I also thought I wanted to come up with something that I could do on a regular basis, because we have just concluded our monthly Bond talks in the hopes of seeing the Bond movie that unfortunately did not come out when it was supposed to, but sort of expected, but was still fun to do. I do check in every now and then with my countdowns, whether it's top 10 countdowns for the year or top 10 countdowns for a genre, but those require a lot of prep, and my current prep for my top 10 movies of 2014 is taking extensive amount of work, because 2014 came up with a truly spectacular bunch of films to a point where it's hard cutting things out of my honorable mentions, let alone the actual top 10s itself. But I went into my archives for my DVDs and my movies, and I had a look around to see what jumped out, and as with a lot of things, there are specific things that are plentiful in my collection, whether it's a ton of Doctor Who DVDs because there's just so much Doctor Who content. Obviously, the Marvel movies are there front and center because of all the Marvel movies and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything. But also, what's there a lot are Disney animated films. I have been trying very hard over the last couple of years to try and get every single Disney animated film from the Classics collection, or at least to have seen them all. I did do a top 10 recently of my absolute favorite Disney films, if you want to go check that one out. It's a pretty good chat. I think I made a list that doesn't make many people unhappy. I thought I had more pushback than I actually did. There are some picks that made some people genuinely annoyed, but overall there was a general consensus that what I picked was pretty good. So have a listen, and if you disagree, feel free to let me know or whatever, but it's a good episode. It's one of my more favorite episodes that I've done. However, I also want to talk and provide information or provide my own opinion on things. So what we're going to do starting from today, and these episodes may not be extensive, they may not be very long, they may not be full of bountiful information, it may just be me saying things, which to be honest is 99% of my Spliced In Later content. But we are going to look at the ages of the Disney classic films, because it's something that I only discovered a couple months ago, is that each bunch of Disney films is separated by a genre, and that genre absolutely 100% effectively defines the movies that came out during that time. If you go and watch all the Disney classics, you will see that themes, production quality, values, types of stories change dramatically depending on what year you're watching the film, what was going on behind the scenes when these films were created, the jump from 2D animation to 3D animation, actual events in the world, all sorts of stuff going on. But once you know what these genres are, you can go back and you can pick watching these films, oh yeah, this is from that genre. I can tell because of these things. So I have been looking into it quite a bit to know exactly what films look into each genre, and I'm trying very hard to see every single film. It's a bit hard. There are some that are hard to find. I'm sure if I subscribe to Disney Plus on a full-time basis, I could get all of them, but I refuse to. So if I have to do other means necessary to see these things, I will. But I don't think I'll be jumping onto Disney Plus just to be able to watch a 45-minute film called Fun and Fancy Free. I don't think so. From what I've heard, it's probably not worth it. But we're going to start doing that, and hopefully by the time I get to each age, I will have watched the films from that bit. I can confidently start with our first one because I have absolutely seen all 5 of these movies. They're all great movies. They all are great for different reasons. but also for the same reason, depending on the age. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to go back all the way to 1939. I believe it's 1939, to begin the golden age of Disney, the Disney classics golden age. It does sound very pretentious to say golden age, but that's really what it is, because when these films were first coming out, the idea of a feature-length animated film was just something that did not exist. Nowadays, what is this, maybe not 2020. If you go back to 2019, there's an animated film probably coming out every couple of weeks, all from different production companies: Disney, DreamWorks, Universal, Paramount, Illumination, all sorts of different things. There's so many animated films. They're the go-to for taking your children to the cinema to see. Some are made very basic and simple just to entertain small children. Some put more thought and quality into them to try and provide good stories, good teaching moments. There are even very few animated films aimed at adults, which is always funny to see how these films slip past the marketing and somehow parents end up taking their kids to see these films, or the big controversy surrounding them all. Is always fun to watch, always fun to listen to. But back in 1939, when the golden age of Disney classics began, this thing did not exist. I mean, movies itself was a very new concept. 1939, they only really have a good 10, 15, 20 years of actual feature-length films. And only very recently have these films allowed speaking and talking. A lot before it was music, but pantomime. Only now at that point did Charlie Chaplin even agree to speak for the great dictator. So you got cartoons. Cartoons were existing, very short cartoons that were put before these other features. And mainly to sell products, to sell propaganda. There's always a theme behind it, or just something to fill the air while you sit around in the movie theater waiting for the actual film to start. Or if it's a day where movies were just shown back to back all day through the cinema, the cartoons coming in the middle was letting you know you had a good 10 minutes to go off somewhere and do something else, or come back later and check in to see when another film's coming on. So 1939, Walt Disney goes to his production people and he says, I am going to make a feature-length animated film. When I say feature-length, I mean it's going to be its own thing. It won't be attached to any other movie. It won't be used as an advertisement to sell things. It won't be using established cartoon characters that already exist. This will be something that exists on its own, and it will run for over an hour. Not too far over an hour. This is back in a time where movies were not always bloody 2.5 hours long that required you to invest most of your morning to see. Feature length can vary anywhere between 69 to 94 minutes, I think. Somewhere along there is supposedly the ultimate goal, the genuine, the sweet spot for seeing a movie. Somewhere around an hour and a half means you can watch it and it doesn't take up too much of your time. You don't have to take a toilet break while you watch it. It's not something that doesn't require you to plan your day around it. But such an animated film did not exist. Disney wanted to be the first one that did it, which is where Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was first born. Or it was as affectionately known back in 1938, 37. I hope it came out in 1939. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. I think it is. And I think I'm right. But I will go and ah as we move forward because I'm never too confident about my own knowledge. So let's assume it's 1939 and I'll try not to second guess myself again. But Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was also known affectionately both in and outside of the Disney Corporation as Disney's Folly because no one believed that this would work. People told Walt over and over again, people told each other working on the movie, this isn't going to work. This is costing so much money to make. Nobody cares about an animated film. Nobody cares about a color animated film that goes longer than 60 minutes. So much effort just to put actual color into this thing. No one really cares about the story. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's a simple fairy tale. How is it going to go longer than 20 minutes? This is it. Once we do this, this company's going down. That's it for Disney. Farewell. Even the trailer for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has Walt Disney in a very way that a lot of people copied afterwards, like Alfred Hitchcock. He himself appeared in the trailer and he introduced each dwarf to the viewer and he told them who they were, what their emotion was, why they are nice people, and then basically said, this is coming from a movie called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you should see it. I know you probably don't want to, but it's gonna be good. I swear. Give it a try. Please. I beg of you. Of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs comes out. Big hit. Big blockbuster hit. Or at least a big hit for 1939 standards. In terms of critical acclaim, it didn't have the reaction that it certainly has now. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs really, even now, your appreciation of it depends on what you like about Disney products, what you think about the Disney princess and how she has evolved from those early days. The story of Snow White itself, do you appreciate Snow White and her adventure into the forest to hang out with the Seven Dwarfs? The motivations of the evil queen, of the huntsman, of the magic mirror, all of that. Speaking personally for me, it's fine. I don't think Snow White is the greatest story in the world. I watch it, and I do think it is a movie that is lacking a lot of what I have come to love about movies, especially in terms of the villain, the evil queen. I don't want to spoil it, but I will, because we're going on nearly 100 years since this movie came out. But it is a movie that wraps itself up. The evil villain sort of sorts herself out without any assistance from the good guys trying to thwart her evil plan. Putting on top of that, the idea of how old Snow White is supposed to be in the movie, obviously the portrayal of women and their role in kingdoms and cleaning for men. There's a lot there. You could unpack how Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs does not sell the right ideas in today's stand until the cow came home. But with a lot of things that were made in the past, you also have to look on that with that type of vision. This was made in a different time. It does not represent the values that are pushed today. And you can't go up to Snow White and say, how dare you exist? If it were made today, you could do that by far. But you have to take these things with a grain of salt, sort of. Whether you like the story or not, whether you think the story was good, whether the critics thought it was very good back in 1939, what it meant for Disney's success and what it meant for animation films as a whole cannot be denied. If this film had not been made, it would be folly to say that animated films probably wouldn't exist as they would now, but something had to be the first. Snow White can proudly hold that crown by saying, I was the first Disney classic. I was one of the absolute first feature-length animated productions. Not only that, I combined all the different things that were only just being combined in Hollywood films: music, sound, color. I'm a pinnacle of the first few steps into that world. So regardless of that, Snow White needs to be revered for that, essentially. But with the success of Snow White and everybody going, yeah, cool, awesome, that was pretty good, we'll go see that 700 times. We'll give you all our money, Disney, that was good. Pushed on ahead in 1942 to make Pinocchio. Pinocchio is my favorite of the batch here. I was thinking at the end of this, I'll rank all the films, but I'll run out of time. So I'll just say when I get to my favorite of the bunch, which one is my favorite. And it's absolutely Pinocchio. Pinocchio is dripping with a lot more confidence than Snow White. You can tell watching it that this is a film that knows what it needs to do to be well received. It's confident in the story it's portraying. When I first saw Pinocchio, when I first started learning about this stuff, I was shocked to learn that Pinocchio was only the second Disney classic. I mean, it makes sense once you look at the production and the year it came out and everything like that. But Pinocchio presents itself as such a surefire Disney story with a Disney lead character, Disney villains, Disney side characters, that you would be forgiven to think that Pinocchio was number 10 or 11 on the list. But no, it's number 2. Pinocchio had a lot going against it as well. 1942, we're full into World War II at this point. Not a lot of people able to see movies at this point, which is why its box office is not really an accurate reflection of what it might have done if it were a standard normal time for this film. But Pinocchio, again, Pinocchio as a character, the lessons that it teaches obviously to children are about being true to yourself, not being a brat, everything like that. The magic of wishing upon a star, the craziness of the side characters around Pinocchio that influence him towards the good or the bad, depending on which way he's pointing at that point. And then he's, of course, guided along by Jiminy Cricket, his conscience. This also brought in songs. We started getting songs in Disney. There's singing and dancing in Snow White, but really it's very simple beat stuff. Hi ho, just say that 500 times. Pinocchio's got When You Wish Upon a Star, which became the sound for Disney. You go to any Disney film now, not just animated, but any film in general, that opening logo with the Disney castle, the music that is playing is When You Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio. And it, in my opinion, accurately sums up the magic of all the Disney properties, that they're all existing under this one roof. When You Wish Upon a Star. Disney wished that he could make an animated film that would work. He got his wish. Good for stuff. Moving along from Pinocchio, we go on to Fantasia. As when I was younger, I didn't like Fantasia because I was an idiot. There's no other way around it. I was a stupid, dumb kid who watched Fantasia and didn't understand what was going on. There's no clear story. I don't know who the characters are. Why are things changing all the time? I can't follow. This is bad. You will forgive me for being a stupid, dumb child. Now you can look at Fantasia, and to be fair, yeah, sure, Fantasia might not be everybody's cup of tea, because Fantasia is not a story. Fantasia is not a plot in the sense of the word. Fantasia is a showcase. It is basically, I guess it's showing by Disney company that now we've had some successful films. This is what we can do with animation. We can push the boundaries that haven't been pushed before. We don't have the ideas to put these into films yet. Obviously, war's going on. A lot of our animators are being sent off to fight. We don't have a lot of resources at the moment, but we're still working. We're still trying to produce content that we can eventually turn into movies. This is what we've been working on so far. It is a showcase of all the different things. The look of Mickey as the Sorcerer's Apprentice has become a staple for Disney as well. Obviously, Mickey Mouse, the face of Disney, but him in that sorcerer's outfit with his hat, doing his magic, the broomsticks that dance along beside him while he does his stuff. Pinnacle Disney. It's what you think of when you think of the production company. Fantasia requires you to sit down and appreciate what you're seeing. This is not a film where you go, yeah, cool, let's go on an adventure. You will get bored if you don't care about the animation itself. If you've never watched an animated film because you don't like animation, then Fantasia is not for you. If you watch animated films and you get bored when nothing's happening and it's just showing scenery or action with no words, Fantasia is not for you. Fantasia is, look what we can do. Aren't we great? You know, and if you are producing quality content like that, sure, pat yourself on the back. Why not? I think Fantasia is well loved by people who appreciate movies, where movies have come for, and I think Fantasia is disregarded by the average viewer, the everyday viewer. But I could be wrong. Feel free to let me know if you like Fantasia and you also don't give a shit about movies. That's fine. Moving on to number 4 is Dumbo. Very, very short Disney film and only 62 minutes. It baffles me how short the film is. Dumbo did not do well critically or commercially, financially, anything like that. Also, Disney sort of playing it safe with a film like Dumbo. Dumbo's not really stretching the boundaries of pushing animation pinnacles the way that Fantasia was doing, or Pinocchio, or Snow White. Dumbo is a very simple story about an elephant with big ears that can fly. There are moments in the film where there's some experimentation, namely the very infamous song Pink Elephants on Parade, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I've heard it's fun to watch with extra assistance from supplements. I wouldn't know, but looking at it, I could absolutely believe that that's something that would be extremely entertaining. And then after Dumbo, we've got Bambi as well, and Bambi's sort of the same. I like Dumbo more than Bambi. I think Dumbo has a very nice story about poor little Dumbo who gets stepped on and pushed around and neglected and used during his adventures in the circus and everybody around him, and his mum being locked up and all of that. But he is such a sweet little soul, and he doesn't talk. He's just trying to get about his life. Just people leave Dumbo alone, essentially. And even to this day, I've watched Dumbo quite a few times, but I do not recall what it is he does that ends the movie. Does he fly and save someone? Does he escape the circus? Does it sort of just go, well, eventually his mother was released and he's happy now? I can't really recall. And I've seen Dumbo quite a lot of times. But in regard, Bambi is also the same thing. We all love and remember Bambi for the thing that happens in Bambi. Again, don't want to spoil, but we're going on 100 years at this point, so spoilers ahead. Obviously, Bambi's mother dies in Bambi, and it's very, very upsetting. But if I were to ask you, what is Bambi about besides his mother dies, you might be hard pressed to actually tell me what the movie's about. And I don't blame you. There's a lot going on. Bambi as well is a great demonstration of how animation skills are evolving, even from 1939 when Snow White came out. The look of the forest, the animal creatures, it looks beautiful in certain places. But Bambi himself, Bambi is obviously, he's a young deer. His dad is guardian of the forest, I believe. And eventually he's going to grow up and become guardian, I think. But his life takes a bit of an unexpected turn when his very caring, nurturing mother dies. So he has to go off with his father, who is, from what I can remember, is stoic and closed off and not that nurturing figure that Bambi's so used to. But I cannot really recall properly what Bambi does from that point on after his mother dies. He grows up, I think, and he becomes the guardian, and I believe he has a little love story and falls in love with another deer, a doe, a female deer, whatever. But the actual story itself is not very memorable that I can recall. And I want to apologize to anybody who truly loves Dumbo and who truly loves Bambi. I apologize. I'm not trying to say that these aren't good movies or anything like that. They are great. They are entertaining. They're really, if they didn't exist, Disney will not be as high on a pedestal as it is. They all push the boundaries for what they needed to do. It's just that as a story itself is what's lacking in these films. The story has been put second place to the visuals, to the animation. Very Fantasia, but if Fantasia tried to have a story in there as well and tried to pretend that the story was the most important part. Whereas Fantasia just wholeheartedly embraced, this is just a showcase of images and sound and colors. Dumbo and Bambi sort of do the same thing, but they put two characters in there and go, these are our characters we're focusing on. I will have to do a proper rewatch of them to be sure about what I'm saying, but I did watch Dumbo and Bambi earlier this year. I would think it's only been about 5 months as well, and I'm struggling. If I'd known I was going to struggle this much, I might have quickly popped them on last night to be sure. But that being said, what's the point of the Golden Age? What does the Golden Age sum up? The Golden Age sums up the establishment of Disney as a brand, specifically in animation, creating content that was not available at that time and proving that that content could be made. We could have animated films that went for longer than 20 minutes. They could be their own products. They didn't have to be attached to other films. They can be directed at kids, but they can also be appreciated by adults. We are seizing the new tools that are available to us making films, namely the combination of sound, talking, color, visual spectacle. And we're picking up this gauntlet and we're running with it. We may not be getting the money that we would like, but it's World War II. It's rough times. And by the time Bambi was finished, World War II was still going on strong. So when we get to our next stage, and I'm going to talk about, the backdrop of that really affected what type of movies came out, the content that was provided by Disney. And as a result, quality really takes a dive. But you have to allow that appreciation of the time that it was coming out and what they were trying to do and what they couldn't do. But that is a discussion for a story for another time. In short, today, we can all look back on these 5 films from Disney Golden Age and give them critical acclaim. We can appreciate them tremendously for what they are. And I'm sure most of you out there have certain soft spots for certain of these films in your heart growing up as a kid watching them. They are quintessential Disney. They establish the magic that we all remember and all love and all experience when we put on new Disney films now, when we go to Disneyland, when you go to the Disney store, putting on Disney Christmas films that are coming up real soon, I imagine, because Christmas is fast approaching. But it's interesting that the Golden Age is a thing that exists and it encompasses these 5 films. What other ages are coming? I'm excited to discuss them. This will be a regular recurring thing. I don't know when we'll be back to talk about it soon, but hopefully very soon. Probably not. I don't know. Christmas, things are going to get ahead of all of us, I think. but I'll do my very best to not let this one die, and hopefully we'll be back to talk about it soon. But until then, I hope you have enjoyed this trip back to the 30s and early 40s for the golden age of Disney. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi. Which is your favorite? Which one do you like the most? Which one do you like the least? You want to rank them? Go for it. Are there some that you think are overhyped? Are you some that I think deserve more recognition? Feel free to let me know. Something to think about going ahead. But until next time, I'll see you next week. As always, you've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.